What's up? Today I wanted to do an honest take on my voiceover career, and how I feel about, being a voiceover artist. Maybe there'll be one or two things that you might be able to get from that. So, first and foremost, I've been doing voiceover seriously now for about a year. And in that time, I've learned a lot about myself, how I take criticism. I've learned a lot about my voice, the characteristic of my voice, scripts that I work better with than others. These are all things that I picked up over time. I always think to myself, how much more can I learn about this craft? And there's always something new to pick up on, whether it be, how you form your words, how you shape your mouth, how you warm up your voice, vocal fatigue, vocal stamina, just linguistics. There's a lot of things that you can do to improve in this thing. It really, honestly, isn't just reading off of a piece of paper. I know a few people that are like, yo, man, I can read and I've got a dope voice. It goes beyond that. And I picked that up over time that there's a lot from interpretation of the script to understanding what the brief says, being able to understand your client, figuring out what it is that they want, also figuring out how your voice is ultimately going to show up on video, if it's going to be used for video, what's the purpose, how long is it going to be used for, what market is it going to be shown to. It's all these little aspects change things. So how I guess my vocal journey. Actually, I have to start it in primary school. Actually, just to build a bit of context. So I'm generally I want to say reserved person, just in general, like my day to day, how I am, and I think that has played a big role in how I've gone about building up my voiceover career. I don't like speaking. It's strange when I'm with people, and that obviously if I'm comfortable with you, I'll talk, but I'm not generally a massive talker. So it's weird that I would end up in a career like this. It's strange for me even now thinking about it. And I remember vividly growing up with a stutter that came about. It would always surprise me that I'd be speaking like this very normally to a person, and then out of nowhere, I would hit a certain word, and I just would not be able to get past it until I'd find ways to figure out new words to use or just not say certain stuff. So in primary school, I went to remedial. I'd have remedial classes where I would sit with a remedial therapist, I guess, and we would do all sorts of activities. I just I remember feeling warm in that environment, thinking to myself, it's fine. I'm not going, even if I do get caught out while I'm here, I'm good. Like, it's like I'm in a safe space, so it doesn't matter. I remember feeling that. I just, for the life of me, cannot remember the lady's name. She used to give us like homework and stuff to, not homework, not really homework, but like activities to do. And would get pulled out. There were a few of us, but I remember there were times when it was just me, where we'd get pulled out of class to go to another room. I remember it was next to the tuck shop. And I remember even going there, it was never really like, it wasn't really a thing. Like, I'll just disappear into this little room there on the side, and that's where I'd have my remedial classes, far away from the normal classrooms. I guess they did that so that they wouldn't, there wouldn't be like some sort of stigma around remedial. Yeah, so the lady taught me a lot of coping mechanisms for my stutter, things that I can do whenever I feel it's coming on, ways to note when it is coming on. That's how I sort of figured out that it becomes worse when when I'm nervous. I stammer a lot. Yeah, and it really did help me. It's one of those things that I can say I grew out of, but I manage, because even now I get times, and I've caught myself on camera and on video, on camera and on voiceovers when I'm recording myself. I've caught myself stammering or stuttering over a word. I'm like, oh my gosh, there it is. And it's very, very short, but I've got all these really, really, it's autonomic. It's super, super, like, it just happens where I just sort myself out and then I'm good and I carry on. So that's the first part that I'd have to say. The second part is that I remember trying out. I don't know why I wanted to be part of the debating society. I remember this was in high school now. I sat in, I remember it was an English class. It was Mr. Grant's class. In the, what is it called? The college block, I guess it was. This was in a classroom. It was during break time, and there were these two prefects. I must have been in grade 9, possibly grade 10, maybe grade 9. And I was trying out for the debate team and or the debating society. There were two guys sitting there, and they were like, okay, tell us about yourself. They asked a very, very, very simple question. So embarrassing. They asked me such a simple question, and I just remember crying. I don't know why. I just started crying. Like, tears just came down. I was just like, this is not going to work out, man. They tried to make me feel okay about it, I guess. I didn't feel bad. But, yeah, it is what it was. It was what it was. And that was that. So, obviously, I didn't become part of the debating society. I didn't do any of that. I might have gone to one or two debates thinking that I was going to be eventually one day, but that never happened. So, it's so strange that based on that and my upbringing, that I'd get to a place where, I would do something like this. So for someone who is, it's weird because you'd think that to be a voiceover artist or to be a vocal anything, that you'd need to be somewhat out there and happy to speak. Yet I'm not. I think it's more a thing of I know my limits and I know where I'm comfortable. I know where I can perform the best. Strange. When I created my first samples, I was in the studio, much like this, by myself. So I stood behind the mic and I spoke. But I was comfortable because I was by myself. There was no one else around me. So judgment wasn't there. There was no chance of me stammering. I was good. I'd edit whatever it was, and then I'd be able to send it through. So that's basically how I've run my entire voiceover career. Everything I do in my own space. And over the years, I've grown in confidence just about my voice and being able to project and stand in front of people and talk. I've done many presentations at my former job, many situations where I just had to get up and talk or get up and represent myself or my team or my profession. So in many situations, I was thrust into positions where I had to say something, it got to a place where in one of my roles, it was weird if I didn't say anything. If I didn't say anything, I was either angry, uninterested, just unbothered. So I had to keep on, pushing myself out of my comfort zone to speak more. Another thing that helped me a lot, and it's a low key thing, but it helped me a lot. In 2015, I think it was maybe 15 or 16, I started a podcast on SoundCloud. All the episodes are still there. It's under Silas Beats, but you have to scroll right to the bottom. Where every day on my way to work, I would speak to myself, or I'd speak to future me, sometimes past me, just giving encouraging advice, things to do, just sort of like a blueprint that I thought maybe one day I'd go back to. And I did that every single day I drove to work. So I got out maybe 5 episodes a week. In fact, it was more because there were times when I would record on the way home as well. So what I'd do is I'd have my my old Samsung earphones, and then I'd just record right? I'd just be talking while I'm driving. And then I'd put that episode out whenever I got to where I got to. So I think speaking like that, it sort of trained me to be able to speak for long periods of time like this without feeling as though I'm saying something strange or weird or, and yeah, that sort of developed into me doing my my Thursday voice notes, which is just a weekly thing where I put out music business information. So it's just been a thing that's sort of just built on itself. So by the time I got to doing voiceover, I was happy to speak, no stammering, pretty confident in myself, still reserved, but, just able to articulate myself better and be able to speak and, keep a conversation going. So that's how I got to this point now. In terms of things that I then did to improve, once I realized that, look, voiceover is something that I want to do seriously, I need to pick more things up, I started analyzing my own voice. So I have certain vocal characteristics that I know of purely because I've done a lot of scripts. So the first thing I'd say is that I produce, this is going to sound very strange, but saliva wise, I feel like I produce a lot. So I find while I'm doing my scripts, I have to swallow a lot. I don't drink a lot of water because when you drink water, then you start to hear, like, if I there's characteristics in my voice that change when I have a little bit of water. So what I do is I just try and make sure that, my airways are clean. So before I do any voiceovers, I'll always blow my nose. If I can, I'll brush my teeth. I will then, obviously, I'll floss, use a bit of mouthwash, and then from there, one or two vocal exercises, and then I'll get into the work that I need to do for the day. The whole thing about clearing the airways is important, just especially nasally. I hear it now. I can hear when there is something, even if it's something small in my nose, I can hear it, and it gets annoying. Then the other characteristics, there's certain things that I say, there's certain places where I speak from. I can sort of feel that I speak from the bottom left quadrant of my mouth. So here, this is usually in this area here is where a lot of the word production happens and all of that. Also, whenever I say the letter C, I know that I have to be very careful because sometimes if I'm saying a word, click gets me a lot. It's a CL, click or clear. Because whenever I do that, it's a and it's not clear. So I have to be very careful and mindful that when I see that word coming up, that I actually either stop, I swallow whatever, and then I say it, or just being mindful of it so it doesn't come out as clear. It comes out as clear, and I can actually, say that. The other thing is that I've also noticed that my tongue, so maybe it's because I don't speak that much, but I don't speak as much as other people, but it feels like I get times where my tongue just feels very lazy. And it's when I say words like product. There's times where my tongue it'll just lash forward and I'll just say something. So these little words that I've picked up in the scripts, it's purely from me saying them so much and then me listening back to myself and saying, wow, that sounds terrible. I've tried to work on these little words that I have. Trying to think of another one. There are times if this area is dry, it's very strange to explain it, but if this area gets too dry, say I'm doing a really long script, I'll start to hear more popping in my words. And at that point, I know that I need to have a little bit of water just to wet this area here. And then that popping stops. The popping, obviously, I need to cut it out, or I might need to say a word over, but it becomes annoying for the take. So all these little things that I've now honed in on have helped me progress even further in my voiceover career. Over and above that, small little things like I don't know why I did this. I went onto YouTube and I looked for people who had studied linguistics. I didn't do it at university, but just learning where words come from, why certain people do certain things like vocal fry. Why do people do vocal fry? Why certain people speak high pitched, other people sing when they talk. Other in certain languages, you say things in certain ways, and I'm sure you've heard it in certain languages. I hear it a lot in what language is it? Chinese, Mandarin, that I hear it a lot, where words are, and I guess Korean as well. And I suppose there are local languages where I hear people singing when they speak. It sounds as whenever I hear a closer speaker speaking, I hear it sounds melodic when they speak. And that for me is, I'm like, okay, cool. I take elements from that. So I'm like, I always need to check to see who I'm speaking to and what the context is, and see whether or not I need to be more melodic when I speak, or whether I can be less melodic and more formal. So if it is more corporate, it's a corporate script, I'm going to be less melodic when I speak. Everything that I'm going to say is not that it's all going to come out monotone like this, but it's going to be more to the point. I'm just going to say my words, and I'm going to dance on my words as well. I'll just say the things as I need to say them, and I'll continue on as I need to continue, right? As opposed to if it is corporate, but it's corporate and I need to sound like I'm we're talking about a tech company, a new innovative tech company. I need to become more animated. I need to have more melody in my voice, and I need to not necessarily dance on the words and make them staccato, but I would need to hang on certain words so that people can hear, they'll hear me better. So yeah, those are the little things that I've picked up on. I'm sure if you're a vocal anything, even if you're an actor or drama, you work in drama, that you probably would have done the same. So let me know if you've had any experiences like that and what your background has been like. And yeah, we can share our stories. Peace.